It's a new year here in our local to global journey in 1931 as we navigate the Effganic Genesis mod. And not only does the new year mean annual awards that we've got to go over, but it also means that we are on the road to the spectacle of amazing grapples, and we have got the Derby right ahead of us. This is going to be a big episode, and we aren't going to waste much time. We're going to get right into everything. First things first, we've got to take a look at the annual awards. And we actually see that Anthony Henry has unseated Daniel Loisel as the Wrestler of the Year for the very first time in this save. So that's a big moment. Anthony Henry has been grinding. He is a well-accomplished wrestler in his own right. He is now ranked number 1 in the world. He's the SPW Southeastern Champion. He's got excellent skills, phenomenal stats, and a great deal of popularity in the Southeast, all things considered. Paige Gagne becomes the Female Wrestler of the Year after Kuni Hashiguchi was the very first. Daniel Loisel and Ollie Farrar once again become Tag Team Champions of the Year, the only team to have been crowned that honor. No female Tag Teams of the Year, which is not super surprising at this point. Masked Porcupine takes Male Young Wrestler of the Year once more. He's 23, so I think he's got maybe one more year to capture this title, but he certainly seems to have a bright future ahead of him. Female Young Wrestler of the Year is Jocelyn Slater of Victory Wrestling Group. Our very own Friedrich Herzog is the Male Veteran Wrestler of the Year at 45 years old. The man is our heavyweight champion. He's also the owner and booker of German company POG. No Female Veteran Wrestler of the Year. I don't think there's any females wrestling over 25 yet at this time. Anthony Henry wins the Male Independent Wrestler of the Year. Paige Gagne takes home Female Independent Wrestler of the Year. SPW is Company of the Year. Victory Wrestling Group, the female exclusive wrestling company, takes Most Improved Company of the Year. And Daniel Loisel and Rahan Marlowe, Nui Wham Saini Rahan Marlowe, win Match of the Year at SPW Oblivion with a rating of 68. It's actually gone down the last 2 years. And SPW Oblivion was the match card of the year. Levi Andrews takes the Male Manager of the Year. Gabriela Suarez, the Female Manager of the Year. Tajo Covarrubias, the Male Play-by-Play Commentator of the Year. No female commentators. And Jairo Haran takes the Male Color Commentator of the Year, while Kenny Wiles, our boy, Male Referee of the Year. So that'll do it for the worldwide awards, but we've got our very own awards, of course. Hermenegildo taking home Male Wrestler of the Year, which really isn't that much of a surprise. That man was putting on bangers all year. Joel Cartwright taking Male Young Wrestler of the Year for the second year in a row. Friedrich Herzog, no surprise that he's the Veteran Wrestler of the Year. Emilio Suarez and Hermenegildo Ramirez was our Match of the Year at a 57 rating, so ours are constantly improving every year. That is a positive. Match Card of the Year, our Glory Gauntlet, the very first Glory Gauntlet, was a 50. Angus Wellington, our Male Manager of the Year. Gabriela Suarez, Female Manager of the Year. Riker Zucker at Commentator of the Year. Kenny Wiles, Referee of the Year. So some big things going on for the WHAM as we look to start 1931 with a bang. But we do have a new company, Team Wrestling Association. It is owned by Veronica Lutter. Based in the Midwest, we're going to have to see if this is a female exclusive company as well. Maybe a mix, maybe male exclusive. We're just going to have to find out. We'll keep our eyes on them. And not much else. And now that we've got the awards taken care of, we're going to get right into the preparation of our next show. And of course, we got some backstage drama. Friedrich Herzog causing some rifts with Black Bull backstage, spreading some rumors. We're going to give our champion a stern warning, and nothing noteworthy came from it. Christopher Hartwell spreading more rumors about Turner Spittler, same treatment, but Christopher Hartwell is annoyed at this action. And it is, in fact, the very first event of 1931, so we're going to inspire the boys in the locker room. And with that inspiration, we're heading right into the show. No pre-show matches for this event, and we get a tag team match, a tag team championship match at that, to open up our night. Got a segment rating of 17 from our tag champs, Chuck and Angus Wellington. They defeat August Washburn and Chris Brownfield, probably the two least capable competitors on the roster, more or less. And that is by design for Angus and Chuck. They want to give themselves the lowest level of competition that they can. And even with that low level of competition, Duke Wellington still makes his mark on the match, interfering and striking August Washburn. setting up a submission opportunity as Chuck Wellington was able to secure the victory. Chuck Wellington was the best competitor in this match with a performance of 29, Chris Brownfield at 22. He does seem to be getting better. August Washburn at 17, as was Angus Wellington. So we had Bronson Fraley ringside, we had a Duke Wellington interference, and we've got a successful tag team championship defense, and it's been quite a while since they defended last, so we wanted to get them with some action here. And of course, it is the first round of the Derby tonight, so the rest of the night will be heavyweight one-on-one action. You can see here that Chris Brownfield separated his shoulder. You don't love to see talent get injured. However, given our schedule, I don't think this is going to affect his work rate too much. Now, following the victory, the Wellington celebration is cut short as Bryant Hines, Blue Mage, and Craig Bean appear ringside. Bryant Hines points to the ring, signaling the champions are in the Dark Carnival sights. The champions are visibly unsettled as the Dark Carnival slowly make their way to the back. You may wonder where Black Bull is. He's getting ready for his match later on tonight because he is a part of our tournament this evening. But let's talk about this segment here. We see the Dark Carnival crash in the party for the Wellingtons, and they make a statement that they are coming for the tag team champions. Segment rating at 27, not terrible here given the talent involved. And we're going to preview our tournament, as our first match for the tournament is going to be Turner Spittler and Woodrow Gunter in a big match. A lot of this first round has got a lot of familiarity around it, and these two know each other pretty well. They've traded victories with one another. They've competed in a triple threat for the championship not long ago. Here is their opportunity to move forward in the Derby and compete for that heavyweight championship in a one-on-one opportunity. You can guarantee that this one's going to be physical. There is going to be no love lost between these two. Moving on into our next match, we've got Sebastian Morales and Neil Allman going one-on-one once more. And again, this is another two guys that have got some history with one another. Neil Allman has been real shaky. He has not been a reliable or consistent singles competitor. The only time he's gotten victories is when he's teamed up with Sebastian Morales, and there was even a little bit of tension the last time these two shared the ring together. This isn't even the first time that they've faced off in the Derby. If I'm not mistaken, I think this will be the third year in a row that they have faced off against one another in this tournament. So a lot of volatile factors here. We're going to see who comes out on top of this one. And the next match of the Derby, these two have had history from the very beginning of this company, from the birth of the Wham. Black Bull, Bronson Fraley, they're going to go one-on-one with the opportunity to face the heavyweight champion in the very next match, based on how these brackets are set up. So this is more or less a number one contendership match for the very next event. Bronson Fraley, Black Bull, like I said, these two know each other very well. They've got a history. They used to be partners, but Bronson Fraley turned his back on Black Bull. So we're going to see what comes out of this one as well. You can guarantee that it's going to be physical. A lot of physicality here in this opening round. And the first heavyweight championship defense of the Derby in the opening round is Friedrich Herzog going one-on-one with the newest edition of the Wham, Rahan Marlowe, who made a huge statement last month as he attacked the champion in his debut event. He's found himself in the very first round with an opportunity to unseat the champion in something that has not been seen before here in the Wham. Can the newcomer come in and shock the world? In the very first round, Friedrich Herzog has been a very strong champion with very strong in-ring performances, so he's going to be tough to beat. Plus, Rahan Marlowe is a former SPW guy, so are we really going to give that kind of rub to somebody who came straight from SPW? That is going to be our main event. But getting into our first match of the Derby. Remember, we've got Chris Brownfield, separated shoulder and all. He is the manager of Turner Spittler. We get a really good physical match between Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spittler, as Woodrow Gunter defeats Turner Spittler after 10.5 minutes with a match rating of 40. Woodrow Gunter has been grinding since he's been in the Wham, and he has finally got himself a chance to move forward in this Derby tournament. He's only one match away from competing for the heavyweight championship, and 2 matches away from being the heavyweight champion. But we've got Turner Spittler in-ring performance of 37, Woodrow Gunter at 46, and these two have been really going after one another, and it's been great to see as two physical specimens have been added into the WAM in just the past year or so. I like the trajectory for Turner Spittler. He hasn't been around long, but he has been poking his nose around with some consistent performances. But moving on, we've got a promo in between matches when we've got junior heavyweight champion Joel Cartwright as he makes his way down to the ring, ready to speak to the crowd. Cartwright announces he will not be holding an open challenge this evening on account of the Derby. However, he is looking forward to his next challenge, whoever that may be, and claims that he is hopeful that they will be ready to compete. Gabriela Suarez makes her way from the curtain, clearly unamused. She storms the ring and snatches the microphone from the champion, stating she doesn't appreciate the games that Joel Cartwright is playing. She states that he knows that Amelia will be his next challenger and is hungry to regain the championship. She finishes her claim by asking who else could even possibly be up for the challenge, and that is when Joel Cartwright points to the curtain, revealing Hermenegildo Ramirez. So Hermenegildo Ramirez has been well endowed in the junior heavyweight championship scene, but he is our wrestler of the year. He is the man that has been putting on some top tier performances within the company, so that in itself will keep Hermenegildo around in that kind of junior heavyweight main event scene. Segment rating of 36, you would hope that Gabriella would be able to elevate this segment just a little bit, but not bad. Now moving into our next match of the Derby. Another really good match. These heavyweights are performing well, everyone's inspired, you love to see it. But we've got Neil Allman getting back on track with a huge, clean victory over Sebastian Morales. Big moment for Neil Allman as he is finally able to overcome some of the challenges that he has had, and he picks up a victory over a man who has kind of been one-upping him for the past half year, maybe year or so. And it's all unintentional by Sebastian Morales. He's a good dude overall. But Neil Allman just getting a little passionate about wins and losses, trying to get back on track, and he was really into this match. He took this one very seriously, and you might even think that there was a little bit of bad blood given how intense Neil Allman was competing. But segment rating of 52, you love to see it. We then get a strong rating of 48 with this next segment. Following an aggressive outing, Neil Allman is elated after finally picking up a singles victory. Allman would motion Riker Zucker over with the microphone and claim that Neil Allman will have a much better year in 1931 than he did last year, just reiterating that he is trying to cast away that losing streak that he was on, that funk that he was in. Now moving into the next match, Black Bull, Bronson Fraley, they've got a lot of history with one another. It was on display in a physical matchup here. However, Black Bull coming away with the surprise victory after Elijah Mays came ringside, distracting Bronson Fraley. Bronson Fraley costed Elijah Mays at the Glory Gauntlet. Elijah Mays was unable to win the Junior Heavyweight Championship at that event. We know that Elijah Mays needed to become Junior Heavyweight Champion to be able to qualify himself to compete for the Heavyweight Championship, which is his main goal. Bronson Fraley received the consequences of his actions from a few months ago. Huge moment, and the crowd popped to see Black Bull picking up the singles victory over Bronson Fraley. And not only does this mean that Bronson Fraley is not moving on in the Derby, but it means that Black Bull is moving on in the Derby. And we see a nice performance from these two, Black Bull at 39, Bronson Fraley at 42. We wanted them to steal the show, so it's good to see that they turned in some good performances. And while it's just the beginning of the tournament, we're going to have to see just what comes about, as we've already had some big upsets, some surprising victories, and some big matches set up for the next round. But segment rating of 39 here, good performances. And following the match, Elijah Mays and Bronson Fraley have got a segment. They hold nothing back as they come to blows, and a physical brawl ensues between the two following the distraction of Elijah Mays costing Bronson Fraley the match. Event staff would eventually have to come out and separate the angry competitors. The bad blood continues to swell between these two, and you know we're going to see these two come to head soon enough. And in our main event, Rahan Marlowe makes history. He picks up a victory over then champion Friedrich Herzog. Friedrich Herzog has been champion for, I want to say, about 500, maybe 550 days or so. His championship reign comes to an end. And Rahan Marlow, the fresh import from SPW, he came in, he made a statement, and he crowned himself the heavyweight champion. He took the heavyweight championship. Huge, huge moment, and we have seen the heavyweight championship change hands in the very first round of the Derby, which is a little ironic considering Friedrich Herzog has actually gone through the entire Derby as champion and won it. So now he is on the other side of the coin where he is eliminated in the first round and he actually loses his championship right away. So we're going to have to see what kind of reign we see from Rahan Marlow. We know he's got a big challenge in Black Bull in his very first defense because he is not out of this one quite yet. While he has become the heavyweight champion, he has still got to get out of the Derby. And that championship is going to be on the line in every match in this tournament that the champion takes part in. So, segment rating of 47 for our last match of the night, and I'm liking the way that this show is going. And Rahan Marlow, again, making a big move in a big way. We get a segment rating of 41 with this last little promo as Rahan Marlow celebrates a massive victory as he becomes the new heavyweight champion, while Friedrich Herzog is in shock, but makes his way to the back without conflict as he is consoled by Oscar Kohler and Fritz Hattendorf. Friedrich Herzog cannot believe it. He's not necessarily sure how to process his emotions right now, which is a sign of maturity from the two-time veteran wrestler of the year. This doesn't mean that there's going to be no action from Friedrich Herzog, it just means that there's no reaction from Friedrich Herzog right now. So we're going to see a new champion in Rahan Marlow continue on in this Derby, but that's for the next event. We're finishing the show, overall rating of 46. I'm happy with a 46 with where we're at right now, and we continue to pretty much every match delivered except for our Wellington match, which is to be expected. 40 from our first one, 52 from Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales. Black Bull and Bronson Fraley was a 39, which it could be better, but Black Bull isn't necessarily the most talented competitor. And Rahan Marlow, like we said, big victory after defeating Friedrich Herzog there. And we're going to address the locker room. There are a couple guys that are still annoyed with us, and I don't want to shell out money into them. So Elijah Mays is one of them, and Woodrow Gunter is another. So we're just going to tell them that they're awesome. Hopefully that improves their morale a little bit. Chris Brownfield, injured for 15 days, but that's not going to affect us because we'll be back in about 30. And we make $1,767 from the show. Our finances are looking kinda nice right now. Maybe able to pay for some travel for some international talent. Maybe get a broadcast deal going. We're gonna have to see what goes about there. But no popularity change as we move on. As we've been navigating through each event, a little bit of interesting news came up as Daniel Loisel becomes the booker of TWA. TWA is the new company. He is the first hire for that company. But what he becoming booker means for us anyway is that Daniel Loisel likely will not be able to go under any kind of exclusive contract, meaning unless he willingly leaves SPW on his own, which he has been with for 10 years, he's been the guy for this whole save. I don't think we're going to be able to get him on our roster, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. I wasn't planning on poaching the strongest wrestlers from SPW given their lack of resistance when I do it, but this is a little bit of an interesting development in the world of wrestling. He's got some business reputation, some booking reputation and skills, so we're going to see how Daniel Loisel does as booker of the new company, the Team Wrestling Association. They've got quite the bankroll, so I'm interested to see what the roster is going to look like. A few guys on my short list have been receiving offers from them, so we're going to see what happens. More developments in the wrestling world. CWB has officially declared bankruptcy, and as you can see, as one company goes under, another company goes up, as TWA has begun to actually make some signings for the roster. Guys like RT Lincoln, Diego Bergen, Saeed Wyndham, a couple other guys, Cody Willard that we've had our eyes on, Brian Hatcher is going over to TWA. We'll check back and see what the roster actually looks like before our next event, but CWB has officially gone out of business and is no longer. So with CWB gone and TWA in, we stay at the same amount of companies that we're already at, which is 11. So RIP to the company owned by Kenny Lyles. And as we get into the next show, we've got a couple things that we've got to address first. One being the Blue Mage injury, and this is not great for us, considering we've got Blue Mage involved in some direct plans for this next show. He's got a fractured cheekbone. He will still be able to work, but whether or not I want to deal with the loss in performance, we'll have to just tackle that when we get there. But we've also got Turner Spittler. His contract is ending, and you can guarantee that I am going to send this man another deal. We're going to keep him on that handshake, but we'll set it for a duration of 2 years. So we'll have to just come revisit this in 2 years. Granted, we could just do an ongoing handshake, but it just feels a little bit more structured to add a duration to it. So we're going to send him a 2-year contract, see what he thinks about it. It is not exclusive right now, so hopefully he doesn't receive an offer from SPW or something like that. But I am allowing myself the grace period to offer back to somebody. If SPW sends an offer to somebody big, like maybe a Neil Allman, maybe a Turner Spittler, he is poking his head around closer to the main event scene, so I definitely don't want to just lose him if I'm going to invest a spot on the card for him. We've also got the TWA to look at. The Team Wrestling Association, they've been getting busy as of late. They did a 12-day tour, and then they had an event afterwards. So they're putting up some numbers. Look at this. Show rating of 47, better than our last show. Team Blossom versus Mask in the main event. So Mask is RT Lincoln and Steven Vecchio, and then Daniel Loisel and former Wham member Dean Grunge. Okay, so that makes sense. Daniel Loisel is really going to elevate this company. And then in their last day of the tour, Joe Zimmer, Steven Vecchio, Diego Bergen, Brian Hatcher, Gary Cowell, John Wolf, JP Cromwell. So this company has got some familiar faces for sure. Let's just take a look at the roster real quick. Daniel Loisel, Vecchio, RT Lincoln, Joe Zimmer, Dean Grunge is on the TWA roster, Gary Cowell, Pickleman, who would actually be happy to come back to the Wham should we send him an offer. But life has been fine without the Pickleman, and he was one of the first guys to leave us, so I'm still a little salty about that. Diego Bergen's over here, JP Cromwell. Fumihiko Onoda has found himself a full-time source of employment. My gosh, happy for the boy. This might mean he doesn't make many appearances on the Wham, but if this means the man's getting paid, I'm happy for him. John Wolf, Brian Hatcher, Yavraj Tunnell, The Throwback, Maxwell Ham, SPW's own. We're going to make this guy into a big star, but he actually, if I'm not mistaken, he has hardly been used in SPW at all. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 matches in SPW, and they took him 5 years ago, or 1 year ago. Excuse me, not 5 years ago, my goodness. They took him a year ago, a little over a year ago, and they just did not use him after they took him. But TWA obviously is getting him busy real quick. So happy to see that for Maxwell Ham. We may just have to poach him from SPW if they're not using him, though. Archie Filer, this guy's definitely from the 1920s. Really good technical stats, though. 82 technical ability, 76 brawling. He's probably going to put on some good matches, low-key. Braden Sachs, another man straight out of the 1920s. Okay, so I'm honestly, TWA's got a nice roster. I'm really interested to see what comes about with this company, and we may just have to make friends with them, honestly. We are now ready to move on to the next event. Nothing substantial happened before the show, and we're ready to just jump right into it. No pre-show matches yet again, and this match doesn't have a ton of story behind it, but Sebastian Morales and Turner Spittler just come out and have a good, entertaining match. Sebastian Morales reinforcing his status and level as a competitor with a really nice victory over a formidable competitor in his own right, Turner Spittler, but Sebastian Morales had an in-ring performance of 50. That's nice. Turner Spittler, 38, that's pretty good. Chris Brownfield did some good work ringside, so we like to see that his presence is a beneficial one. It's a positive. Segment rating of 44, really nice segment to get the show going. Like I said, not a ton of story stemming from this match specifically, other than Sebastian Morales just getting back on track with a victory. We've got Bronson Fraley and Bryant Hines in a match. Remember, the Dark Carnival made notion that they were coming for the Wellington Dynasty. So this then, in a bit of a statement match from the Wellington Dynasty, they put their muscle Bronson Fraley up against Bryant Hines, and Bronson Fraley dominates Bryant Hines. We had this set as a wild brawl just to highlight the strengths of both of them if we could. But as you can see, Bronson Fraley took care of business. Not much to say about the in-ring action here. We know the level of competitor that Bronson Fraley is, former champion, two-time Derby winner, and Bryant Hines is not. But after the match, we got Elijah Mays making an appearance at the curtain. Once Bronson Fraley is aware of Elijah Mays, excuse my typo, he quickly takes off, heading straight for Mays. Elijah quickly heads behind the curtain, and Fraley goes on to make chase, leaving the Wellingtons on their own in the ring. Segment rating of 42 as Bronson Fraley and Elijah Mays have some shenanigans, and we would then see some further development from the boys that he left in the ring, as it did not take long before the rest of the Dark Carnival appeared to avenge Bryant Hines. The three members of the Carnival would take out each Wellington brother, leaving the champions down as the Dark Carnival took their exit. Segment rating of 41 here, and we just had Black Bull, Blue Mage, and Craig Bean dismantle the Wellington brothers. And now moving into our next match, we've got the junior heavyweights back in action, plus Masked Hammer as we needed another masked luchador. But we got Hermenegildo Ramirez and Joel Cartwright taking on Emilio Suarez and Masked Hammer. We see a nice segment rating of 47, good match put on by these four. Masked Hammer was off of his game, but this is the first time he had to lock up with these kind of junior heavyweights, this level of competitor. Masked Hammer is a heavyweight, but like I said, he is a masked luchador, just like Emilio, but also in the same ticket, he carries a bit more popularity and star power than any of the junior heavyweights that would have teamed with Emilio. But I digress. Joe Cartwright, the champion, 48 in-ring performance, Hermenegildo Ramirez with a 58, nice work, Masked Hammer at 32 and Emilio at 47, and of course Gabriela Suarez did some good work ringside. Emilio Suarez gets a bonus for having a hot new move, and this was a really nice match between our junior heavyweights, and this is still just the beginning of the show. We haven't even gotten into the Derby tournament, which we're actually going to preview here in just a moment. Emilio Suarez and Masked Hammer pick up the victory, and we would see a post-match segment where, following the victory, Gabriela Suarez taunts Joel Cartwright, handing the championship to Emilio. The siblings then stand over the fallen champion as the segment comes to an end. So just a little bit of foreshadowing the match between Emilio and Joel Cartwright, as Emilio seeks his rematch for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Our promos and segments are actually hitting tonight, and you'll love to see it. Now, to continue the Derby, our next match is going to be Neil Allman and Woodrow Gunter. The winner of this match will find himself in the finals of the Derby. Neil Allman is on a big redemption arc, whereas Woodrow Gunter has been grinding for quite a while to get to this point. Two really strong competitors who carry a decent amount of name value with them. And it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top of this one. And then of course, our main event, the Heavyweight Championship, Rahan Marlowe will be making his first defense against Black Bull. We already saw Black Bull make an appearance earlier tonight. Will that have any effect on this championship match? Or will the Dark Carnival keep everything at bay and keep things clean? We have not seen Friedrich Herzog on this show yet, so the possibilities for shenanigans is certainly there, but we've got a match to get through before that, and that is in fact Neil Allman, Woodrow Gunter. And we would see here a nice segment rating of 51 from these two, as Neil Allman took the victory over Woodrow Gunter in a great match. And we wanted these boys to go out and steal the show, and Neil Allman, he did just that with an in-ring performance of 57. A really strong performance, especially for a heavyweight if we're being real. So Neil Allman, he's won the Derby before, and he's looking to do it again. He's found himself in the finals with a chance to take home the Heavyweight Championship. A big final match at the Spectacle of Amazing Grapples here next month. And following the match, we would see Neil Allman continuing his momentum with another victory. And following an intense showing, Neil Allman celebrates in a manner that is just as intense. And this segment exists purely just to get this man's exceptional charisma stats some opportunity to shine on their own, and you can see why. Segment rating of 60, which is far and away much higher than anything our range of what we are normally getting out from our normal segments and everything. So Neil Allman is a star, and we're going to treat him as such. We're going to give him that time. Now, who is he going to be facing in the finals of the Derby? Riker Zucker takes a moment to hype up the main event in the heavyweight championship match between Black Bull and new champion Rahan Marlow. However, Riker Zucker was interrupted by Friedrich Herzog, who has come ringside to get a closer look at the title match. So just a little bit of intimidation by the former champion. Friedrich Herzog clearly not thrilled about losing the championship, but he's been really collected so far. He has not lashed out, he hasn't attacked anybody, nothing along those lines. And he just wants to come out and see Rahan Marlow defend the heavyweight championship for the first time. Segment rating of 43 here, so not a bad performance here from the Pride, albeit a simple one. We've got our main event, Rahan Marlow's first ever heavyweight championship defense, and it does go successfully. Rahan Marlow remains heavyweight champion. Black Bull was real close, but he just couldn't come away with it. This was a clean match, no in-ring shenanigans or anything like that. Rahan Marlow is just an intense competitor. Black Bull, a very physical competitor, and these two are button heads. But all in all, Rahan Marlow would be the one to stand tall, come out victorious, and he had an in-ring performance of 44. Black Bull had an in-ring performance of 38, and we would get a total match rating of 42. So we had some strong matches tonight, and all in all, we do not see another change of the heavyweight championship, but Rahan Marlow, he's learning that the Wham is deep, and Black Bull gave him some issues in this one, and he knows that Friedrich Herzog is a good competitor, and there are a lot of other good competitors. He's got a really strong one in Neil Allman that he's going to have to face at the next event. So like we said, good match here, put on by the new champion, and a really good performance from Black Bull. He's really come a long way from where we first started with him. Now, as the show came to an end, Bronson Fraley and Elijah Mays would make their way out from the curtain, continuing their conflict from earlier, though this time, things once again got physical. This fight would extend throughout the ring area, as the fans were treated to one more scuffle before the show came to an end. This is not a comedy bit, but it's just an extension of the segment that they had earlier, where Bronson Fraley was chasing Elijah Mays. They came to blows, it got physical, and here they are coming out from the curtain. Segment rating of 37, kind of a weak little segment to end the show, but I kind of thought it'd be a nice touch. Overall rating of 47 for our show, saw a little bit of improvement from the last time. We had some good matches, honestly. Nothing. Bronson Fraley and Bryant Hines was definitely our worst match, but Bryant Hines, he's on that same tier of competitor as the Wellingtons. He's honestly probably a little worse. Had a great match from our junior heavyweights and Masked Hammer, as he is a heavyweight. Neil Allman, great match with Woodrow Gunter, match of the night, and then followed up with a phenomenal segment as well. So we saw some good stuff here. And we're going to show some love to Elijah Mays and Black Bull. And we have reached $3,000 in ticket sales, an overall profit of $19.51. And we do see that popularity jump from 30 to 31. You'd love to see it. As we move on, we notice that Gabriela Suarez is now entering 30 days remaining on her contract, and there ain't no way we're losing Gabriela Suarez. I mean, look at these performance stats. And not only are the performance stats her main driving, contributing factor to her tenure here, even though the fact that she's 5 foot 88 pounds, damn it, she's got some skills in the ring. And it's crazy that she is 5 foot 88 pounds. But we are 100% going to continue to set her up with this contract. We're going to do another 2-year contract, exclusive handshake. She ain't going nowhere. We'll give her 20. No, we're going to keep her at 20 since we don't really have a women's division. She mainly operates as a manager, but we're going to send her that contract. However, in addition, we've got some other contract workings going on behind the scenes that we're going to uncover here in just a moment. We have signed another female to our roster, Ivy Baldridge. Check out these stats. For a female, comparatively, she has got some seriously exceptional abilities in the Puro Rezo and technical sectors. This girl is hard-hitting, she plays no shit, and she's got some decent fundamentals. Her consistency is awful. I hate that consistency. but I've got some faith that maybe it can improve. The performance stats aren't the worst, but she had the most appealing stats for me to bring on for what we got brewing up here. She's not the only new member of the roster, as we also brought on Viva La Lucha member Super Monkey. He appeared at the Glory Gauntlet. He was a part of that match, but he is a solid member of the Viva La Lucha roster. But we also brought on Super Shield, who was unemployed when we brought him in. And in a couple bits of good news, Matsuo Hayawata and Ivy Baldridge have both relocated from their home countries of Japan and Canada, and they've come down to the Mid-South, so we will not be paying any travel for those two. But without further ado, folks, it is time for the biggest event of the year, the Spectacle of Amazing Grapples 1931 edition. We've come a long way. Unlike most of the shows leading up, we do have a pre-show match, and it is between Black Bull and Diego Bergen. Unfortunately, they don't seem to click, and it made for an awkward bout. No chemistry whatsoever. Diego Bergen was off of his game on top of that, so we just get a segment rating of 28, while Black Bull had an in-ring performance of 33 and Diego Bergen had 25, so it was a good decision to leave this guy off of the main card. Now, to kick off the show, while this match doesn't have a ton of story behind it or leading into it, aside of the Woodrow Gunter Turner Spittler saga, it is a fine tag team contest. We had Woodrow Gunter and Sebastian Morales defeating Turner Spittler and Wayne Blankenship. Woodrow Gunter would be the one to pin Wayne Blankenship, and this match got the show off to a strong start. Sebastian Morales was looking great out there with an in-ring performance of 54, Woodrow Gunter at 43, Turner Spittler at 42, and Blankenship at 29. We need to get our boy Wayne Blankenship back up there because he's got really good performance stats, but he has really dropped in momentum and popularity compared to everybody else. Have faith in Wayne Blankenship. But segment rating of 44, I was almost going to put this as a pre-show match, but I knew this would get a good rating, and I'm glad I put it on the card. Moving on into our next match, Bronson Fraley, Elijah Mays. Wild brawl, and we would actually see the light heavyweight Elijah Mays come out victorious over Bronson Fraley after he would force the big man to submit. Big match to keep the night going. Bronson Fraley with an in-ring performance of 42, Elijah Mays at 47, and overall we would get a segment rating of 42 for this match. Elijah Mays was a little off of his game, but overall these two put in a nice match here. But what is more important is the huge upset as Elijah Mays, the junior heavyweight, defeating the former heavyweight champion Bronson Fraley. While this does not win Elijah Mays the junior heavyweight championship, this does make an excellent case for his potential contention for the heavyweight championship, as Bronson Fraley is a top competitor here in the WAM. But these two put in a nice match. Hermenegildo Ramirez and Masked Hammer keep the good matches going, as we had a segment rating of 45 here. Hermenegildo Ramirez with another upset victory, as he, the junior heavyweight, picked up a victory over heavyweight Masked Hammer. While Masked Hammer doesn't necessarily have the kind of name status and weight that Bronson Fraley does, it's still a big deal at this point in time. It's still treated like a big deal for a junior heavyweight to overcome the odds and beat the heavyweight. Masked Hammer is not a bad competitor either, and Masked Hammer would actually keep the upper hand in this match for a great deal of it until we would see Super Monkey and Super Shield make their debuts here in the WAM. Actually, Super Monkey did not make a debut. He debuted at the Glory Gauntlet. But these two made an appearance ringside, which would distract Masked Hammer. I didn't want it to affect the ending because I knew that would tank the rating. It was a major benefactor for Hermenegildo Ramirez to gain the upper hand. So moving on, match of the night so far at a match rating of 45. And then we get this segment rating introducing these boys, as we got Super Monkey and Super Shield, two new additions to the WAM, look very satisfied with their efforts to thwart Masked Hammer's efforts to secure a dishonorable victory. Super Monkey and Super Shield stand delivering superhero-like poses, which confuses Hammer and Hermenegildo Ramirez. Nonetheless, the duo made an impact on the match that allowed Ramirez to come away with a big victory. So, kind of almost like a neutral, ethical party. Masked Hammer kind of playing with some heelish tactics, some underhanded tactics. Hermenegildo Ramirez, he can go in the ring. He is a good competitor, junior heavyweight or not. So Hammer had to do whatever he could, and Super Monkey and Super Shield would kind of nullify those attempts, and that's how they played their part in the match, and ultimately we've got 2 new luchadors here in the WAM. Moving into our next match, Tag Team Championship Contest. Segment rating of 35, this may be one of the best that Angus Wellington has been a featured part of. But we've got the Dark Carnival defeating the Wellington Dynasty after Blue Mage pinned Chuck Wellington. And the Dark Carnival become new Tag Team Champions of the WAM. Craig Bean, in-ring performance of 43, same along with Blue Mage, Angus Wellington at 17 and Chuck at 30. So good performance from the Dark Carnival boys. But the Wellington Dynasty, they give up their Tag Team Championships after well over a year. And Bronson, you'll notice that Bronson Fraley is at ringside, even after his match with Elijah Mays. But what kept him was another appearance from Elijah Mays. It didn't come up here, but Elijah Mays also made an appearance ringside, and that would instantly attract the attention of Bronson Fraley. Bronson Fraley would be pulled from ringside as Elijah Mays would make his way back up the ramp. Bronson Fraley was no longer there in support of the Wellington brothers, and the Dark Carnival would capitalize on that. Now moving into our next segment, we would see Albie Dewberry back in the ring before this next match, and he is happy to announce that his surgery was a success, and that he'll be back in the WAM before 1931 is over. Albie Dewberry hypes up the upcoming Junior Heavyweight Championship match, but also warns whoever comes out as champions that Albie will be back sooner than they know it. Segment rating of 38, and just a little promo here for Albie Dewberry so the crowd doesn't forget about him while he's rehabbing his shattered knee. And a good segue into our Junior Heavyweight Championship match, and we've actually got Joel Cartwright, Emilio Suarez Junior Heavyweight Championship. And Joel Cartwright actually defeated Emilio after nearly 14 minutes by submission, and Joel Cartwright is able to successfully retain his championship over Emilio Suarez. Emilio Suarez is one of the greatest junior heavyweights in the history of the WAM, one of the greatest champions in the history of the WAM, and he came up short here. Gabriela Suarez did her darndest, but it didn't work, and we're actually going to get into that here in just a moment. But this makes defense number 4 for Joel Cartwright on his redemption tour after 0 successful defenses in his last Junior Heavyweight Championship reign. But Joel Cartwright, in-ring performance of 44, Emilio Suarez way up there at 56. Nice job here. And we get an even better segment as Gabriela Suarez couldn't believe her plan backfired, and she is visibly furious with the outcome of the match. Gabriela Suarez would set up a strike to Joel Cartwright from behind with the timekeeper's bell, but Ivy Baldridge would appear and prevent Gabriela's attack. That's right, new signee Ivy Baldridge, making her debut in a big way, saving Joel Cartwright's bacon, more or less, and preventing a savage attack. Joel Cartwright would realize what is going down and quickly regain composure, ready for physical altercation. As the Suarez siblings realized they had no element of surprise, they began to make their way away from ringside. So despite an awful rating on her goth gimmick, Ivy Baldridge making a splash with her debut, and Joel Cartwright remaining Junior Heavyweight Champion. Now our main event, best match in WAM history, huge contest, and Neil Allman really delivered, but he actually came up short and was unable to capture the WAM Heavyweight Championship. Rahan Marlowe, the new face of the company, the new heavyweight champion, the one who made history defeating Friedrich Herzog, also defeats Neil Allman in this Derby. And Rahan Marlowe not only retains his WAM Heavyweight Championship, but is the winner of the 6th annual Derby tournament. Segment match rating of 61. Thanks to Neil Allman's in-ring performance of 61, Rahan Marlowe was no slouch as he was at 52. We had a creative finish that was a success that amplified our rating, and this was the best match in WAM history. So like I said, massive show here, massive main event. Although Neil Allman, despite getting a little bit of momentum behind him, cannot seal the deal and regain the WAM Heavyweight Championship. Now in our next segment, we've got Neil Allman beginning to process his loss and coming up just short of the heavyweight championship. He visibly goes through an array of different emotions. As Riker Zucker announces the championship victory to the crowd, Neil Allman then approaches the commentator and snatches his microphone away, disconnecting the cable and bringing it with him as he heads to the back in dismay. Segment rating of 52 for Neil Allman, just sulking in his loss a little bit, but we move on, and amongst the commotion, Friedrich Herzog then makes his way into the ring, ready to congratulate the heavyweight champion. Rahan Marlow is wary of Herzog's presence, though Herzog extends his arm to offer a handshake. Rahan Marlow hesitated for a moment until he would ultimately accept the handshake. The two shared an exchange of respect until Marlow tried to walk away. Herzog refused to let go of the new champion, and holding a stoic and direct stare at the championship belt. Herzog would tell Marlow that that title is his, before pulling the champion in for a massive bear hug, which would then become an explosive belly-to-belly suplex. The champion had already exerted his energy, so he could not defend himself. The former champion would lay in strikes before getting up, promising to reclaim his spot atop the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South. Big ending to this show, as Friedrich Herzog finally lets it out, getting some post-match aggression out on the new heavyweight champion and the new face in the Wham. Friedrich Herzog is not going to give up his spot as the face of the company that easily. Segment rating of 44, and we are going to see plenty more of these two going head to head here in the future. But that's going to do it for our show. Overall rating of 57, which I think is our best show that we've ever had, if I'm not mistaken, and pretty much every show hit that was on the card. Not talking that pre-show match, but of course the Wellington Dynasty, but even the Wellington Dynasty match was not bad, as we had a 35 rating. Of course the locker room was inspired, and Rahan Marlow defeating Neil Allman in that 61 match rating. That's something that rivals SPW, and I can appreciate that. Overall rating 57, and hopefully this gives us just an entire jump in popularity, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Elijah Mays is always upset, so we're going to continue to tell him that he's awesome to keep that morale up, and we had to praise Rahan Marlow for his performance. Big gain, $2,200 for this show, and our popularity stays at 31, but it does increase. And the feedback on our show was that it had outshone some of the bigger companies' recent efforts. Looking at you, Viva La Lucha and Southern Pro Wrestling. So big episode here. We had some big things go down with this show, as the landscape of the Wham continues to morph and change and mature, as does the state of professional wrestling here on our local to global journey in Mark Northern's Effganic Genesis mod. Huge shout out to everyone subscribed to the Real One tier on Patreon. You guys are awesome and your support is greatly appreciated. As for me, this is all I've got for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.